What's up everybody, man? Back, welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing another Godzilla Kong Supernova news and updates. Oh, and today we've got a juicy one for you. Set filming continues for Godzilla Kong Supernova. We've got some new looks at the filming of the movie, and they give us some interesting glimpses on where we might be heading. Today we'll talk about those set photos and videos, as well as some Easter eggs and references, and we'll discuss if a brand new rival to Monarch is able to finally kill the Titans. Let's get into it. Starting out with some artwork like always, this first piece comes to us from Zilla. It's actually a collection of artwork, and this first one is their Godzilla Evolved. I think it looks so cool, especially Godzilla's face looks fantastic. This art piece turned out really well. I'm a big fan of this style. Godzilla's looking sick. The next one features Kong and Zuko. Kong reminds me a lot of these old books I had. I used to have these like monster books when I was a kid, and they would feature like King Kong art. Kong looks really cool. I like the muscles on his arm. Zuko's looking cute there as well. This one looks great. I love the Beast Glove. Scar King looks fantastic. These are all very similar to the ones that appeared in their Rio art I showed off in a previous video, but this Scar King looks so cool. The crystal on the end of the whip looks great. Scar King looks so scary in this one, and their Shimo looks very menacing, a lot scarier in the face than the Shimo from the movie. This Shimo is very spooky. I like it. This is just amazing. I love this one. This is Kunlun 1's Space Godzilla Legendary style. Space Godzilla's got these like almost adorable eyes from afar, but up close they are just terrifying. This one's so cool. You can really see the legendary Godzilla face in there, but overall it's just a really neat version of Space Godzilla. I always think Space Godzilla looks ridiculous in the movie Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, but now that we are not limited to a man in the suit, we can really slim out the proportions of Space Godzilla, making him a lot sleeker, making him like this artwork, and it makes him a lot cooler. I love this piece. I think that this one turned out great. Jared Modena Designs updated his Space Godzilla, and it turned out fantastic. This updated legendary Space Godzilla is so cool. The crowned horn on his head is amazing, and I love the way the crystals are growing through the shoulders here. It really looks like this is a mutation, not like a natural creature, but a mutant version of Godzilla with all of these pieces that shouldn't be like those crystals on the shoulders. This thing looks so cool. Jared is one of my favorite artists, always doing incredibly impressive work. I also really like the size comparison, showing how much bigger their Space Godzilla is than Godzilla and Kong, and he's sizable enough to where he would be a threat that they'd both need to team up against, but also not way bigger to be like silly in comparison when proportioned against them. This turned out really good. I'm a huge fan. I love it so much. Jared, you're an amazing talent. If you haven't followed Jared already, please follow him, links in the description below. And now let's talk about how you guys all got duped big. This isn't the leak, it's not concept art. I've noticed that some artists have realized that if they capture this wispy art style, and especially if they do it in black and white, it captures a similar vibe to Matt Alsop's artwork. Matt Alsop is a legendary artist who has had major involvement in the MonsterVerse since 2014 and has had some enormous contributions, including Godzilla's design back in the 2014 movie. Matt Alsop's an incredible talent. This, I think, is trying to capture a sort of vaguely similar style, and this is their MonsterVerse Megalon. This Megalon really takes Megalon into the beetle territory, crawling around on all those legs. He's also very small compared to the human, very squishable. You really think about how big Godzilla is compared to a human, and then you think about how big a human is compared to this Megalon. Crunched under Godzilla's foot. This is a singular point level threat right here. Can't believe how many people saw this and bought it, but somebody posted on April Fool's as a leaked image, or around April Fool's, and so many people bought into it. I think it's a hilarious prank, but I cannot believe how many people fell for it. Mr. Goji had an interesting theory on if Godzilla landing in Fortnite is actually a way to symbolize or hint to how the next monster will arrive in the new movie. When speculating about Supernova for a while on this channel, I've been discussing how I believe the enemy will arrive to Earth as a meteorite crashing into the ground. I don't think that this is a hint to that, even if it is Space Godzilla, even if Space Godzilla does fall like a meteorite. Unless it's using these colors and this aesthetic, I don't think Godzilla's landing in Fortnite really means anything other than that that's the coolest way they could get Godzilla into the map map on Fortnite, although it wouldn't be unheard of for them to hint things in the future. Like, of course, if you remember, the new Empire had its very first ever hint in a Call of Duty crossover when we got the Godzilla vs. Shimo artwork. I recently did a video not too long ago, a couple months ago, about how not even Jared Krzyzewski, who did that artwork, knew that was going to be featured in the Call of Duty crossover. But I don't think that this means anything, this Godzilla Fortnite collab. I don't think it has any implications, but it would be interesting. Asterias Abzu is a new kind of starfish looking, almost starfish, almost octopus type monster. This is from the MonsterVerse Declassified comic, which I still have not gotten to read, but Mr. Goji pointed out that this is, first of all, not classified as a titan, which means maybe it's a super species. I've seen some other people speculate that it might be an alien. I saw some people claiming that this was gonna be the enemy of the new movie. I don't think that's the case. I haven't read the comic yet, but I'm pretty sure Tiamat kills that thing. But I saw some people think that maybe that'll be the enemy of the new movie, or maybe a giant starfish will be the enemy of the new movie, kind of like Starro from Suicide Squad or whatever. But Mr. Goji pointed out that this probably is a reference to the movie Warning from Space, or at least an Easter egg to it, with those giant starfish coming down and attacking, which I have not seen that movie, but that poster looks awesome. I would love to watch that movie. That looks very camp. Very cool and very camp. Recently, I talked about how Weta confirmed Kong grew quite a lot between Godzilla vs. Kong and Godzilla Kong the New Empire, somewhere from 330-something feet to 390-something feet. Well, not only that, they confirmed in that same Making of Kong featurette, which is off the internet now, that Kong also grew a whole lot more muscular, which you can actually just tell by looking at him from Godzilla vs. Kong, where he's got a beer belly, to the New Empire, where he's a lot more jacked. It's another reason why Kong was able to put up such an even fight with Godzilla. Dude's a lot stronger now than he was in Godzilla vs. Kong. A lot. A new BTS video came from the set of Godzilla Kong the New Empire. It's when they're filming the scenes of the gang wandering through Hollow Earth Forest. It's very cute because during this, a kookaburra lands on the boom pole and just hangs out there. Dan Stevens at one point even goes to try and pet the thing just like Trapper would. It's a very fun clip, but it reminds me, it's so cute that New Empire had a little bird land on a boom pole. Godzilla King of the Monsters had a full-on bear invade set, running around terrorizing for a little while. Godzilla King of the Monsters had a full-on black bear running through set. I think it was actually a baby, but that was a very iconic news story I covered back in the day. Alrighty, you guys, it is time to get into the filming for Godzilla Kong Supernova, and we have our very first ever look at the man himself, Matthew Modine. Matthew Modine standing here in uniform. We of course know Modine's gonna be playing a general in this new movie, and if you look at this uniform, I've never seen anything like it. I have no idea what this is. It's blue. It reminds a lot of people of like maybe the Navy, a Navy uniform, or I've seen some people thinking maybe it'll even be like a Space Force type uniform. Doesn't look like either to me. I actually couldn't tell you what that looks like. He looks like a mechanic, to be honest. But this uniform, I don't know what organization he's a part of. He and the woman in front of him have these patches on them, and these patches look very interesting. They look like wings spreading from a kind of trident coming out of it, like a trident coming out with wings around it. It is a little reminiscent of the G-Force logo, which of course featured the wings and the sword. It looks very similar to the G-Force logo. That G-Force logo was primarily used in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 1993 and Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. This could be a brand new version of G-Force. It very, very well could be. Of course, the MonsterVerse already has a G-Force in Monarch G-Team. G-Team is a military unit that is associated with Monarch but is not technically a part of it. They are a military branch, but they specially work with Monarch. Maybe G-Team is kicking around and has officially become a part of Monarch, and G-Force, or whatever this new organization is going to be called, UNGCC, or whatever they're going to call it, something along those lines, could very well be the new military's response to Monarch. Rather than having Monarch, this international organization of Titan lovers, which is really what the organization has become post King of the Monsters, rather than having them, you now have an international organization of Titan killers. People trained to take the Titans down in combat. I think it's easy to forget with the way G-Team has been portrayed in the MonsterVerse in Godzilla King of the Monsters that Monarch and G-Team are a far cry from the original G-Force. G-Force of the Heisei series had one prime directive: kill Godzilla at all costs, and they came close multiple times. Before G-Force was established, the Super X itself nearly defeated Godzilla with the cadmium missiles before he was revived by an atomic bomb in the sky. Then the Super X2 was able to go toe-to-toe with Godzilla for quite a while, putting the smackdown on him. Super X3 eventually is a thing that lends in Godzilla's death, although Godzilla was already on his way out, and the Super X3 actually gives him quite a peaceful ending. But G-Force also developed the Mechagodzilla, which successfully kills Godzilla before once again again, he's revived, as well as the Maser tanks, which are able to take Godzilla on fairly effectively. And they created those like Maser planes as well, you know, the planes that can shoot masers out of both prongs on the front. Yeah, they created those as well. G-Team was kicking all sorts of butt and would do devastating damage in the MonsterVerse, and maybe we're looking at something like that coming to the MonsterVerse now. Not G-Team, but G-Force. Matthew Modine very well could be the leader of this new G-Force organization. I've also seen some people speculate that maybe that trident sticking out from the wings represents Space Godzilla. I think we're grasping at straws here, you guys. We're looking for Space Godzilla in everything. I don't think that represents the trident thing on Space Godzilla's forehead. I don't think that's what that is. That just doesn't strike me as that. With the worship Space Godzilla, a government-funded Space Godzilla cult, that doesn't match up to me. But I guess I'll never say never. As for the scenes that were shot, as I said in my last GXK news and updates, filming took place between May 18th and May 21st. This sequence is the sequence we already had a picture of and have discussed, but we just get to see it in action, and it's a little different than I thought. It's got a police car up front and this big crowd of people surrounding this fire truck looking thing. The crowd closes in, there's rubble in the streets, there's fire in the streets. The next shot we see, the crowd starts to cheer and cheer and cheer as Matthew Modine hypes them up. You can see a couple soldiers standing off to his side, although I do not think these are all soldiers. Most of these people look to me like civilians. I think that the soldiers are being cheered for. They're all coming in, they're crowding around Modine, he's hyping them up, he's hyping up his men, the soldiers, and people are cheering and chanting for the fire truck. A little news report was released by the Herald Sun on this event. They've got a reporter, she's on the ground, she's reporting on what's going on, and I kind of disagree with one of her assessments here. In her report, we see some of that footage of the crowds and soldiers rushing into this fire truck. This is new angles of lots of people running over there. There's some tanks surrounding them as well that look very futuristic, as they look like tank-equipped cars, like SUV, Humvee type things with tanks equipped to the top of them. She's standing there, then we see a lot of people surrounding those vehicles and cheering. We get some looks at the tanks and vehicles and military trucks on the streets themselves. Major crowds, lots of destruction on the streets. Again, as I discussed in my last video, I'm not thinking that this is going to be a final battle. I would guess this comes early to mid-movie. I don't think that this seems as apocalyptic as the final battles of the MonsterVerse always are, especially if the new threat's going to be a cosmic one. This just doesn't strike me as that. But in this, we learned that this is the streets of Great Britain. It's not technically confirmed it's London, I guess. I guess this is something that I got wrong in my last video, because the police car itself is a Great Britain police car, seemingly from London, but no confirmation what city this takes place in technically. Matthew Modine seems to be leading, and I believe Jack O'Connell is the one in the car getting out during this heroic moment in the streets out of what I believe is a DRT truck, not a fire truck, as I'll talk about here in a second. This news report announces that this is a 3-day shoot. They identify a London-styled crash site, so they believe it's London, and I'll stick to London. I think it could be, with tanks, fire trucks, British police cars, and actors running through chaos. Although it's not like the chaos that we saw when they were filming the big Rio destruction scene for Godzilla Kong: The New Empire. This seems a little more tame. Dan Stevens is stated to have been spotted filming a high-stakes scene jumping out of a fire truck in front of military personnel. Dan Stevens was reported multiple times as people said they saw Dan Stevens filming this sequence with the fire truck in London. I'm not saying it couldn't be Dan Stevens. In fact, if it is a DRT truck, which is something I'll explain a little bit more in depth what that is in a future video, and we got a really good look at it. We eventually get a really good look at that thing. I'll save it for a future video. It seems like a new Monarch vehicle. It very well could be a Monarch vehicle here, which would make sense Dan Stevens would be a part of it. It also seems like a medical vehicle, and Dan Stevens is a vet in the MonsterVerse, so a medical MonsterVerse vet that's part of Monarch seemingly. That seems right up Dan Stevens' trapper's alley. But the scene we're seeing here, I'm pretty sure that's Jack O'Connell in the truck. We have additional angles someone filmed that they work right outside the filming site. You can see another one of those British police cars. You can also see this DRT truck driving through. The truck pulls up, it kind of swerves in front of this big crowd of soldiers and people. The back doors open. Supposedly it's Dan Stevens himself getting out, but I cannot identify him. It looks like pixels to me. I have no idea who that is getting out of that truck. Guess it could be Trapper, but I don't know. Then in front of the truck is where we see the scene of the crowd with Matthew Modine playing out. They're all standing in front of that. An alternate angle just reveals a bunch of cranes blocking out the streets, multiple of those new tanks rolling up with that fire truck behind it. Our final footage here reveals a close-up on that police car and that very special looking tank. That one looks a little more army tank than some of the others. Some of the others look like Humvees with like guns and cannons attached to the top. Some of them do look straight up like tanks. And then that scene where everybody's cheering and someone gets out of the front of the car, they walk over, everybody's cheering and hyping this person up, almost like maybe they just killed a Titan, took down a Titan, and people are cheering for them and celebrating as they saved the city from a Titan attack. A lot of these tanks are identified as EDN vehicles, which is the European Defense Network. So what is going on here? Let's try and make sense of all of this. In Europe, seemingly in London itself, a kaiju attacks. A bunch of European Defense Network tanks and army vehicles roll up to defend. Matthew Modine appears to be rolling with the army, and we know he's a general, although he's not wearing a patch we can recognize. He looks to maybe be a part of a brand new version of G-Force. Meanwhile, what looks like a fire truck pulls up, but what is very likely a DRT truck, which appears to be based on some stuff we'll talk about in a future video, a Monarch medical vehicle. The person in this fire truck stops, gets out, and people cheer for them. That's the entire sequence. There's supposedly chaos in the streets, although we haven't seen like big crowds running from a monster attack. We've only seen big crowds running to celebrate this fire truck. There are two possibilities that have happened here. The first possibility, in the MonsterVerse, human technology has now progressed to the point where they can combat the Titans. This is something the MonsterVerse has been doing very quietly in the background. Starting with Kong Skull Island, they have no weapons that can compete with the bigger Titans, although they could compete with the super species on Skull Island itself. It's unconfirmed if the bomb exploding under Kong's head would have killed him the way Packard intended, although napalm could starve Kong of oxygen, and Kong could be injured by the helicopter blades, so very likely Kong would have died there. As he grows bigger, he becomes more resilient, and the MonsterVerse technology didn't keep up. By the time we get to 2014, the best they've got is an electric fence that does nothing to stop the Muto. By the time we get to King of the Monsters, we've had huge technological advancements with the Argo jet, which is not capable of killing a Titan, but is capable of overwhelming King Ghidorah and sending him running, and they are able to at least somewhat combat Rodan and Ghidorah in DC. They survive, which means clearly they have enough defensive capabilities to survive. Godzilla vs. Kong introduces us to Mechagodzilla, who can in fact confirmed kill Titans. The new Empire doesn't really push the technology too far, but we are introduced to the Heave technology being upgraded and also now having camouflage abilities. Well, one thing that the MonsterVerse sort of introduced in King of the Monsters never really did anything with was the Mazers, the most iconic Toho weapons. The Mazers appear in a cameo in King of the Monsters. Maybe now we're starting to see the MonsterVerse technology reach a place of Toho technology, where they've got Mazer tanks that can finally combat Titans. They've got maybe sonic weapons that can do something to them. Maybe the humanity is finally able to repel Titans a little bit. Godzilla vs. Kong shows that we now have missiles that can pierce Godzilla enough to make him stop his atomic breath, so it's very possible we're finally getting to a point where the MonsterVerse technology is able to take down the Titans. Maybe that's what we're seeing. A Titan is killed in the city's saved, and Godzilla didn't even have to lift a finger. Godzilla didn't even have to show up, or maybe they assist Godzilla in killing a Titan, and then everybody cheers for this fire truck vehicle, which played some important role in this moment. Fire truck could have also saved some people. As I said, it seems to be a medical truck, so maybe it saved some people, and they're cheering because they saved some people the way that the Ospreys were saving people in King of the Monsters. Or it could be they saved a Titan. Maybe they are not here to kill Titans. Maybe that military organization is not the Titan killers that I've made them out to be. Maybe this dart truck, this medical truck from Monarch, and this new military organization are kind of in line with that sort of key to coexistence type balance, where they'll help friendly Titans and repel negative ones. That'd be great if the MonsterVerse finally started to develop those themes again. I'd love that. I doubt it though. I think it's far more likely that they fought a Titan and are coming away with a good story from it. Everyone's cheering them as heroes rather than they saved a Titan, but it is possible. We know that you can resuscitate a Titan, as Kong himself was dying in Godzilla vs. Kong and was resuscitated with a heave. If we have the technology to resuscitate Kong, we have the technology to save other Titans. I'd love to know which one you guys think we're leaning towards. I do believe that red truck is a Monarch truck. I do believe that it is a medical truck, but I could easily see a new G-Force popping up that can kill the Titans, and not even in a negative way. Not even in a way that they're like gonna try and make the Titans go extinct, but just in a way of like, if a Titan's attacking us, we can't wait for Godzilla to show up to stop it. We have to have the technology to stop it ourselves, and maybe we finally in the MonsterVerse have technology that can at least repel the Titans, if not kill them, the way that G-Force was able to do all the way back in the Heisei series. G-Force plays a crucial role in taking down and killing Space Godzilla. Without Mogira and G-Force, Godzilla would have died. So it's very possible. I would love to hear what you guys think though. Alrighty, you guys. Big shout out Titanus Monster Zero fan B9U for getting my last news and updates right away. Thank you for being part of D-Force. And huge thank you to all my patrons on Patreon. It is through the support of the patrons on Patreon that I'm able to continue to make videos like this for you. If you want early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more, please consider supporting the Patreon linked in the description below. If that's not your thing, please consider joining as a channel member. Thank you guys all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you all next time for the next one. D-Man out.